So we're back with our T113 board, and today I just want to look at the performance of this board as far as dealing with analog audio and video is concerned. Alright, so let's get started. So in order to test the relative performance of this board, I had to write a series of small C programs, or rather vibe coded a series of small C programs, which takes video from my older VCR, which is on its last legs, and then inputs it, does some simple processing on it, and then outputs it to my capture card. Another test I ran was how well it generates audio which has been encoded into PCM videos, because that's really my primary interest in this board. And yeah, but before any of that, let's talk about how we get programs onto the board for running it. You have two options here. So you could in principle build a GCC toolchain directly into the image or the firmware, and then build programs directly on the board. The downside of doing that is that the CPU on the board or the SoC is not that powerful relative to your desktop computer, and you would also be taking up quite a bit of space on the actual storage, eMMC storage on the board. So for example, let's see how big this my firmware is right now. So the root file system tells you approximately how big your software, the firmware is. So it's roughly about 230 megabytes. If I were to include the GCC toolchain, I believe it almost double that. So again, you don't want to waste this space. Very valuable on this thing. And so you could see how the space is broken up. So we have a root file system, some temp file systems here, and then we have this partition, which is on the user data. So this is where you would store your programs to run. And the good thing about storing it in this partition is that when you flash in the firmware, you could tell the flasher, the software, to not delete this. So this will persist through your flashing. Alright, so the better way to actually build your own program on this is to make use of the cross-compiler toolchain that comes with the SDK. So that's just gonna be a let me open this file up. So your compiler will be found in out this directory right here, and so I just wrapped it in a shell script, and makes it easy for me to just build applications directly in the SDK without much trouble actually. And once it's built, you generate the C program, and then you have to get it onto the device itself. Easiest tool I found for that is something called OpenX Suite. So what this does, it lets you just browse the root file system on the device like you would be browsing any folder on your Windows PC. So you go to user data, and then you just drag the object, the programs, C programs, compiled C programs into this folder, and that's it. So once it's on there, you could just log into the shell script and run it directly. Alright, so our first performance test is going to be see how well it handles taking video in from our VHS tape and inputting it into the device, and then doing some rudimentary overlays on it. And yeah, we got HTOP running on the machine. So as of now, you see we're using roughly 30 megabytes of the memory, so a lot of free memory there, and almost none of the CPU resources. Alright, so this is the grayscale image is coming from the VCR, and then the red box, this little PCM VU meter, and this audio meter. These are all what's being overlaid on the image. And the key thing to pay attention here is this number. So this tells us how long each frame is taking to process. So that 7,000 may look like quite a big number, but remember that's in microseconds. So the magic number here is that you want to be below roughly 33,000. So you get in a full 30 frames per second if you target in, say, the NTSC format. So we're doing pretty well here. And let's take a look now at the actual CPU usage and memory usage. So memory usage bumped up a little bit. CPU usage, again, focus on the green part, and as you can see, there's a lot of overhead still available to do even more complex processing of these video images. So I'm happy to see this. I was very happy to see that. That means this SoC is definitely performant as far as processing analog videos is concerned. All right, next test we want to jump into is how well it generates audio that's encoded into PCM video, and let's take a look, see how much processing power we're going to use to do that. And again, the magic number we want to pay attention to is right here. That has to be less than 33,000, which it clearly is. So this is it's now processing the audio coming from the VCR. We could also have it process some sine waves, so which is probably more interesting to look at. Just doing a sine wave sweep, and you see how well the image changes based on the particular frequency. But again, let's see how much processing power this is taking. And right here, we are pretty much only using a fraction of the processing power on this chip. So again, very happy to see this result, which means we could easily encode audio in real time on this board. So quite happy with that. All right, let's jump to our final test, which is how well do we encode and decode these PCM videos. All right, so now our generated PCM video is being wrapped back, going to the input, and we'll be processing the video coming on the input. Okay, so now again, what the numbers you want to pay attention to when you're doing this kind of decoding is what is the CRC error rate. And as you can see, it's pretty low, which makes sense because all we're doing is taking the output clean video and then wrapping it back into the input, so we shouldn't expect anything. This works, but the audio is not great. And again, these were all vibe coding programs, so my guess is if you had an expert come in and write this same program, you probably get a little better performance, and obviously the audio would be much better. All right, so looking at our CPU usage, we jumped quite a bit, but there's still a lot of overhead. So we're roughly using, I believe, somewhere around 40% of the total CPU resources at doing this kind of encoding and decoding. And remember, in a real world scenario, you will not be doing encoding and decoding at the same time. You either be doing either or. So a lot of overhead to do other things as far as this kind of audio video processing is concerned. And speaking of video processing, one thing you should note is that even though this board has the ability to do hardware encoding and decoding, so far I've not been able to get any program to run on there. FFmpeg and what we could recommend is GStreamer. Neither of them could make use of that hardware acceleration, and it's a known problem from what I found online. And again, this is a very old version of Bilroot that's been used with this. My guess is if you were to use a recent version of Bilroot, all of that would be supported, so which is kind of unfortunate. From a practical standpoint, all that means is that don't try to do any kind of real-time encoding and decoding of video on this. Okay, to summarize, as far as processing analog audio and video is concerned, this board definitely has enough CPU resources and memory resources to do so. I kind of wish they would get the hardware acceleration working with this version of software, which would make this board even really more suitable for this type of applications. But again, I'm happy with what I see here.